Welcome, welcome, welcome to this session. Good morning from Los Angeles, California, and I appreciate you spending the end of your day with me on this session. We do have a lot of ground to cover, so we will get to it. And we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence in general and in theory, but really we're going to be talking about exploring the impact of emerging technology, about what's happening today, and what we need to do to prepare ourselves to best leverage the opportunities that we have right now with emerging tech, AI, machine learning, et cetera. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kevin. I work on the partners and products team at CertNexus and our sister company, Logical Operations. CertNexus, we are a certification body. We build examinations around emerging technology, all vendor neutral, with no bias one way or the other. We're not selling you a product. We are training you on the concepts that you need to be successful in this world around business data development, IT, and security professionals. Our mission statement at CertNexus revolves around turning fear and uncertainty into hope and opportunity. And that is a really nice catchphrase, but it is actually the situation in which we are finding ourselves in today. And we're going to talk about this. You're going to see this as a bit of a running theme throughout this presentation. So let me tell you a little something about CertNexus and our impact in the certification space. We have written high-stakes certifications to micro-credentials in the emerging tech field, and we have had exam candidates across most all of the Fortune 1000 companies in just about every corner of the world. So our global reach in our examinations has touched all. This is not a commercial for CertNexus today. In fact, I'm going to talk very little about our portfolio until the end, because this is about educating you in the situation where we are standing today, and what we can do, again, to be as successful as possible. So we're going to discuss some technology trends that you've probably all heard about, but I want to put this whole thing together for you into one solid picture. We're going to discuss the role of emerging technology and the impact that it's going to have on all of us, both individually, collectively as businesses. We're going to take a brief history of AI and look at the types of artificial intelligence that are out there and how this artificial intelligence is transforming the world around us in very, very powerful ways at the moment. And finally, we're going to discuss a little bit about the vendor neutrality in training and validation, and why training and validation is important, and particularly important at this particular time that we are in right now. And at the very end, I'm going to do a little push for the CertNexus portfolio to show you what we have to offer, as well as something special for all of you for attending here today. So let's get started by talking about defining some of these technology trends. Digital transformation. Digital transformation is the big buzzword that's been around for quite a while, and it's an all-encompassing terminology, which is basically the adoption of digital technology that transforms the services or the businesses that you are in. And it does this by replacing what is manual processes today with digital processes, or it is in the transformation of older technology into newer technology. Again, this is a broad, all-encompassing term that captures into it most of the emerging tech that we'll be talking about. But digital transformation is the concept that we are all sort of going through today. You may have heard of what's called 4IR, or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And what the Fourth Industrial Revolution is the automation of traditional manufacturing, primarily the automation of traditional manufacturing and industrial practices using smart technology and emerging tech. If you have YouTube and if you haven't seen it, look up Amazon warehouse videos. This is a very good example of 4IR in action. This is warehouses now that are moving product through supply chain, using AI, using Internet of Things, using automation, leveraging the cloud, leveraging large data sets to create a more seamless and effective and efficient way of moving products and services from warehouse to customer. This is also true on industrial plants, manufacturing plants and assembly lines, where manual labor has been replaced with robotic labor, which creates higher efficiency and obviously can work far more hours than humans can as well. So 4IR is very much in play at the moment in the manufacturing world, in the industrial world, and growing exponentially in the supply chain world. And it is a very good example of the potential of how all of these emerging techs combine together to create something seamless. But what this has also given rise to is something that is known now as the data economy, which is basically it's an ecosystem in which data is gathered. Now, this is some of which is personal information, right? Some of which is personal information in the sense that it is your buying habits, your internet habits. All of these things are gathered and collected through the websites that you visit, through the search engines that you use, through the interactions that you have on a daily basis with smart technology, whether it's Siri or any other voice assistant. And this data, very raw and unstructured in a lot of cases, is gathered up by these vendors and then sold. And it has created an economy where data is now the most valuable resource in the world. And it wasn't that long ago, less than a decade ago, where if I were to pull up a list for you of the most valuable companies in the world, that list would have been dominated predominantly by oil companies, pharmaceuticals, and a couple of financial brokers. Prior to that, and for decades prior to that, it would be the automobile industry, right? And prior to that, for decades, it was steel and manufacturing. But what has happened in a relatively short period of time, that list has flipped. And as of today, well, actually yesterday, when I pulled this list, these are the top 10 most valuable companies today. Only 3 on this list are what we would have considered to be traditional companies that one would see on the most valuable companies lists. Saudi Aramco in the oil, Berkshire Hathaway in financial services, Eli Lilly in pharmaceutical. But what you have now on this list is a list that is dominated by data brokers, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta, right? All of the platforms, all of the services that we use and interact with on a daily basis, gathering all that data and selling that data off to other businesses, parties, and other sources. The other 2 on this list, NVIDIA and TSMC, are chip manufacturers and semiconductor manufacturers. That part of the market has grown exponentially because as we have more data, as we process more data, we need more powerful machines in which to do this, particularly when we're running emerging tech. So the world has definitely shifted, right? The data economy of this world has shifted. And the role of emerging tech in this data economy is what is driving this data economy. And we need to know how to leverage it. We need to understand what it is, but more importantly, we need to understand what it is not. Again, something as new and as seemingly overwhelming as this, and we'll talk about history here in a second, you need to understand. We need to step back, understand the history, understand the place in it, so we really understand the role of emerging tech and we make the right decisions for our businesses. Because right now, in the world in which we are living, being dominated by AI and machine learning, as we will discuss throughout this presentation, you are faced with some of the most important decisions you'll ever make in the history of your business. And being armed with the proper amount of knowledge, because knowledge is power, is critically important, more so than ever. So the role of emerging tech. I know this is a eye candy sort of thing for you, but emerging technologies are basically technologies whose development, practical application, or both, are still largely unrealized. Now, if you look at this list of the 30 things that are on this particular chart, you're going to recognize most of them, because most of these are in play today, and yet they are still considered emerging tech because we really have barely scratched the surface of the potential of not all only of each of these individually as things, but collectively and how they work together. So this is a very exciting time that we are in. And it is being used, this emerging tech, everywhere around the world. Approximately $4 trillion of IT spend is going to happen in the next 12 to 18 months. And of that, 1/4, 25% of that IT spend is going to be on emerging technologies, and that is a number that is increasing every day. So we're spending a lot of money, we're investing a lot of time, and we're investing energy, and we have this feeling that we need to be moving and moving quickly into these directions. So if you're going to spend this money, again, the decisions that you make need to be born from a place of knowledge and understanding of the technologies and how they best serve your business. When we look at the how we are influenced as a world, how we are influenced in our businesses, how we are influenced on my side of the house and the training side of the business, content development, with Formatech, with training and development, we are influenced by the major things that impact our lives, technology-wise. And you can look back on the history and see that. Personal computing, well, began my industry back in the 80s, right? And then from that, we had the networking a boom in the 90s. We had the growth of the internet. We had the concept of virtualization, which gave birth to cloud computing. And the birth of cloud computing gave birth to all of the data that we are now accumulating, and this is where we find ourselves. And each one of these things, as you look back, you can see how these things have impacted our lives and have changed the way we interact with one another, we interact with businesses, we do business with one another. This is the trend, and this is where we are. So we have a long history here of technology coming into our lives, changing our lives, becoming ubiquitous, part of the everyday flow of our existence as we move and evolve onto the next technology trend that's coming. And artificial intelligence is one of those emerging techs that have come out of this large data set, right? AI is here. Now, I've been doing this for 24 years now, and I am naturally skeptical of things. I have seen lots of trends come and go, mostly go. And when I hear of things, I usually go, prove it to me, right? And when I first heard about AI some time ago, I went, meh. And then came ChatGPT, right? And everything changed. So AI is here, right? It's here. And it seems to all of us as if it came here overnight. But it didn't. The question I ask is AI really new? So to do that, let's take a brief history of AI. Let's look at this chart again. These are not individual things that happen in isolation. Personal computing in the 80s, networking in the 90s, cybersecurity in the 2010s, data today. These are not isolated things. This is not like music trends where one year it's disco and the next year it's something else. This is an evolution. Each one of these things only occurred because of the thing that happened before it. There would be no networking without personal computing. There would be no web design without networking. There would be no need for virtualization and cloud computing if we were not on the internet and trying to find a more efficient way to do it. And with all of the computing power that we have accumulated and all of the knowledge that we've built through this evolution, we are at a place that makes perfect sense looking back on it historically. 45 years in the making to get to where we are today. And in actual fact, 65 years in the making when you're talking about AI. A concept that was first brought up back in 1950 and actually sort of conceptually realized 67 years ago in 1956. The interesting thing about this chart, when you compare it to the thing that I just showed you, is AI is born a long time ago conceptually, but is not ready practically for some 50 years later. because of the evolution of our technologies building up. So while AI feels new and in some respects feels perhaps a little bit overwhelming, and there is a certain fear and uncertainty from all of this, understand this is a logical and almost natural evolution of our technology and our growth as a society. So let me define AI for you basically in 2 slides. There are 2 types of AI, broad stroke, 2 types of AI out there. One is called narrow AI. You may also hear it as thin AI or weak AI. And it is designed, again, for specific tasks or applications. It works its best when it has a limited range of abilities, and more importantly, operates within very well-defined parameters. And forms of narrow, weak, or thin AI that we interact with every day would be things like facial recognition, Windows Hello, for example, other ways that you do biometrics. Voice assistants, which we all deal with, whether it's Siri or Cortana or whoever, in that we interact with that voice assistant all the time. Recommendation engines, probably the 2 most that we are all familiar with would be Netflix and Amazon. First time you go onto Netflix, you're going to get basically their entire library of stuff in front of you in a hodgepodge sort of way. Over time, as you start working it starts recognizing what your interests are, where you're heading, and then starting to not just point you in that right direction, narrow your field of vision to the things that are of most interest to you, so you spend less time looking around and more time participating in the service. But then it also starts to make recommendations based on your likes of what you might like next, right? Self-driving cars, maybe, maybe not. And then probably the biggest one for narrow AI in an industrial sense is this idea of manufacturing robots and supply chain management. Narrow, thin, and weak is what this is called. I don't find those to be either of those 3 monikers, but this is the AI that for most of us we interact with today. The other AI that you will hear a lot about is something called general AI. Different from generative AI, which we'll speak about in a second. But general AI is where the fear and the uncertainty is born. The idea behind general AI is to replicate human behavior, basically to make machines as sentient as possible. Robots, and more robots, right? This is the stuff that was science fiction was born from. And there are people out there right now spending a tremendous amount of money, time, and effort trying to get us to a place of general AI. It is not here. It is not coming anytime soon in practical applications at all. And it may never fully get here. Trying to replicate what is the most complicated organ in the human body is a very difficult task. And it is not as simple as a math problem. So general AI gets all of the attention because that's what we think of when we think of AI. And yet this is not. This is the false image of AI, right? This is the fear and uncertainty side of it. The hope and opportunity side of it is actually in what we are actually dealing with today in narrow AI. So our mission here, as I've been saying, is to turn this fear and uncertainty of thinking of AI as robots that will take over the world, machines that will not just do our work for us, but then replace us completely in the office. We want to turn that fear and uncertainty into the hope and opportunity that is really here for you in the AI space. We're not there yet, right? We're not at this point yet, but that's okay because we are at the right inflection point right now where we can make the right move collectively and leverage AI with a clear head and a clear vision of what we want it to do for us. According to the World Economic Forum, by the end of next year, 50% of all current employees will need some reskilling. That's a pretty startling number, right? But we're thinking about this as AI is not just a thing that where we're talking about 4IR, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, where we're talking about robotic assembly lines. where we're talking about other things that AI can do for us. The biggest application for AI in our lives is going to be simplifying repetitive tasks in the office and in our daily lives with tasks that can be completed through artificial intelligence. And to get to that point, the most common workers, those who are not touching technology necessarily any more than just the computer in front of them, are still going to need to be reskilled so that they can leverage AI to make their jobs easier and better and free up their time so that they can be more effective, more efficient, and grow their businesses. So this is touching everyone. Everyone needs to understand, at least at a foundational level, what we're dealing with here. Currently, over 30% of all of the tech jobs that are listed are for positions that require some knowledge of emerging technologies. And I will tell you that that number is going up all the time. So it's not only going to be a part of our lives and our daily lives, not just our supply chain lives, not just our manufacturing lives, but our daily lives, but also in that skill set, fundamental skill sets of machine learning, artificial intelligence, emerging tech in general, are going to be needed for the jobs that people are going for in the future. This is what changed the game for everybody. This is why we are having this conversation today, and it is because of ChatGPT-4, in particular, generative AI. And generative AI is a pretty broad label, again, not to be confused with general AI, which is the robot fantasy. Generative AI is a form of artificial intelligence that is used to take what is basically referred to as unsupervised learning algorithms to create wholly new content, wholly new digital content for you, whether it is an image, videos, audio, text, or code for those who are going to be programming. Generative AI works on a model, an algorithm model that we'll talk about here in a second, that is based on machine learning and deep learning, that only knows the information on which it is trained. For example, when ChatGPT first came out and started testing out in the marketplace several years ago, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that at the time, ChatGPT was only trained on everything that had been on the internet up to, I believe, 2020. So if you had gone in 2021 and asked it a question, or when it first came out and asked it a question of anything that happened in 2021 or further, it wouldn't know. It wouldn't know because that is not its field of vision. AI is limited by the data that you put into it and the scope of how you want it to look at that data. So we're very much in control of what we do with it. But this is absolutely a game changer for all of us. Probably nobody on this call who hasn't played around a little bit with ChatGPT, how to write something for you or create a fun image for you or do something for you. But the business and practical application of this for the daily tasks of daily workers is truly transformative. And businesses will need to embrace this in order to remain competitive. This has been the game changer that has started the spark of this conversation. And because of generative AI and because of AI in general, there's an inflection point that's been happening around the world where we realize what we have. And I know you've read a lot of articles about people saying that how it's going to take over this or take over that. And I love all those theoretical concepts. But be assured that governments around the world, large agencies around the world, large researchers and industries around the world, collectively working on how to leverage AI to our best advantages, right? How to put caps on it, how to stop bad actors from misusing AI. There is a lot to this Pandora's box that has been opened. There is no question about it. But there is some comfort in knowing that globally, far greater minds than mine are at work on making sure that there is a strategy for ethical use of AI across all industries. Let's talk about some of the types of AI that we deal with, some sort of fundamentals of AI that you will need to know. Again, I'm going to keep reiterating this. The difference between general AI and narrow AI, we have talked about them both. General AI does not exist today in any practical way, certainly not any way that's going to touch our daily lives. Narrow AI is what is driving us in these conversations and what will be the AI that we use and expand upon and manipulate to fit our businesses and our worlds in the most effective way possible. At the heart of narrow AI and at the heart of sort of generative AI is this concept called machine learning. Now, I'm not going to be training you on this today. I'm just going to be giving you the oversight here of this, hopefully to drive you to want to understand more at a level that really is impactful. We just don't have the time for that today. But basically, machine learning is where you have all of this data. And we've been accumulating data. Your businesses accumulate data. We as individuals accumulate data all the time. And it sits there in kind of an unstructured way. And we do our best to take that data and parse that data to best fit what we think are our business needs. But there's complexity to that data, and there's insights to that data that we lose that machines do not. And that's what machine learning has come to be. So we take all this data, it's put through an algorithm that we create and hone. And then through this algorithm, known as prompt engineering, a machine will start to take that data and make predictions and insights into that data. We evaluate that data for its accuracy. Are we getting back the outputs that we wanted from our inputs? We learn, the machine learns and improves, and this cycle continues. And then over time, the algorithm starts to make smarter and better, more informed and more complex decisions about our data, opening up insights to us that we may not have had before. Down to that next level is what is known as deep learning. And deep learning is a type of machine learning that makes decisions that uses multiple layers of information. So we're moving from the one layer to this deeper learning layer. In this particular visual that we're showing you here, we're showing you a visual about how deep learning can decipher an image between choices, how it can choose this woman over the bunny rabbit in this particular thing. Now, you're thinking, well, that's pretty easy. We all know what a woman looks like. We all know what a bunny rabbit looks like, and we can easily make those decisions. We are coming from a far more complex thing. We have 5 senses. We use them all, right? We have our experiences. Pardon me. We have our experiences. We have everything that goes into us making decisions that we don't even think about, right? We see something, we recognize it. Machines aren't like that. In this particular case, the machine needs to take the image and break it down into a series of shapes. And then those shapes are placed into a certain order, given a certain proportion relative to one another. And the unique combination of shapes, proportion, and placement allows the machine to recognize that this is what we call a woman, this is what we call a rabbit. It's very simplistic, but there is a very complex series of things that go on so that a machine can recognize what we see with our own eyes and instantly know what it is, because we've been trained on this since we were 4. And that's kind of a nice parallel. You are training your AI to learn and to recognize things so that as it matures, as we mature, it thinks more complexly as we think more complexly. So that is the basic concept behind this. Now, this is true for visual images, true for video images, true for text. If I was to feed my model, the AI model, with every book ever written by Stephen King, for example, I could have it then create for me wholly original content using the Stephen King style, basically, because it's been trained on every word that that particular author has ever written. It has learned its patterns. It sees and recognizes the way that words are put together, and it can create something wholly new and original. Incredibly complex, incredibly deep programming involved in this, but keep in mind, this is programming and nothing more. AI is limited by what we put into it. It is limited by what we ask it and allow it to do, right? We have controls over these AIs. We have controls to both let them go further. We have controls to rein them back in. So again, this is how the concepts relate visually, right? At the upper level, you have AI as general, and then as we get into generative AI, start diving down into machine learning and then finally into deep learning in order to create the kind of complex answers that you get back from something like a ChatGPT-4 or DALL-E or any of the others. This generative AI and its ability to do things and to do things much faster than we are able to do, and the type of tasks that we are asking it to do, which are somewhat relatively simplistic in nature and not necessarily threatening in any way, but are certainly things that generate and create much better efficiency in businesses. This is how AI is transforming not just the industry, but also our daily lives. 54% of top investment priorities in a recent survey that was done of top executives by SAS, 54% that said over the next several years, their top investment is going to be in AI and machine learning. Far ahead of what has been sort of, the traditional data investments in things like visualization, analytics, and big data. So there is, if nothing else, in how we take our data, analyze our data, look at our data, sort and take actionable steps upon our data, a lot of that is going to be turned over to AI and machine learning because of its ability to see complexity in minutes where it would take us months or maybe not at all. But along with this comes the fact that there's a skills gap and a knowledge gap that happens, right? There's not enough employees right now with AI and machine learning skills, even though most of us are using these technologies. Let me just move this over here. And plan to do so over the next couple of years. So there's this plan in place from a lot of the businesses, maybe businesses that you work for, maybe businesses that you run. Because you realize that you need to get into this game if you want to stay in the game, right? There was a Forrester research study that was done about 2 years ago around AI, around machine learning. And in the body of this study, a Forrester researcher was quoted as saying, 100% of organizations are going to need to adopt AI or machine learning in some form in order to remain competitive. That's 100%. If you know anything about researchers, they are very conservative people. They don't throw numbers like 100% around ever that I'm aware of. But here they were saying this. It was in print, on quote. 100% of businesses are going to need to adopt some form of AI or ML in order to remain competitive. That's everybody on this call, right? Everybody on this call, in one way or another, is going to need to adopt it. And many of us are adopting it. The question is, are we adopting it correctly? Are we adopting it from a place of knowledge and understanding, or are we adopting it from a place of, I better adopt this because my neighbors are adopting this? If it's the latter, don't let it be. Yes, you need to adopt AI. Yes, you need to adopt machine learning in some way or form, but to what way or form is uniquely beholden to your business, to what you are hoping to get out of it. But you don't know those answers. You can't make those strategic, critical decisions without knowledge and skills. 94% of people say it's somewhat difficult to find candidates for the right cloud technology, right? 56% of AI professionals argued there's a lack of talent and qualified workers is the greatest barrier at the moment to AI implementation, tangible and effective AI implementation across businesses. IoT skills in the emerging tech space. 80% of organizations don't think they have the right skills for that. An Internet of Things, depending on what line of work you are in, is critically important, can be very critically important in making your business more effective and more efficient. And data science is probably one of the top growing occupations with a projected 31% growth over the next 10 years. That's data science in all levels. To get to be a data scientist, there's a tremendous amount of math background that one needs to do it. That's not a career that you just sort of blindly sort of find yourself in. But there are other elements of data science, data analysis, data manipulation that are all part of this under this umbrella. The manipulation and the use of data and how to take this data and properly get the most out of it is really, really critical, becomes more critical actually as we start to have these better tools available to us, such as AI. So let us discuss something here well, let me back up for a second. The gist of this up to this point is this. AI is probably the single most important technological advance in our lifetimes. I really believe that. And while I said this is a natural evolution of a history that began with a personal computer back in the 80s, it is. And all of those have had massive impacts on us societally and from a business perspective. Nothing is going to have the impact of this. It literally will touch every life at every aspect, from the way that we just go about our daily lives personally, to the way we interact with our families and our friends, to the way we interact with our customers and our clients. And if you're a business and you are making an investment, and this is not a small investment, right? Any new technology, is not cheap. We're in a position here where you would need to make these decisions now, correctly. And there's a lot of noise out there, People wanting your attention, people selling you the AI this or the AI that, the machine learning this, data science that. If you're not armed with that good foundational knowledge, if you haven't done your due diligence as a consumer to do your research prior to sitting down at a sales call with someone, you're doing yourself a disservice. And that part of your customer journey, that part of your buying journey involves vendor neutrality, because I think that is the best, quietest place for you to get the knowledge that you need to make the decisions that you have to make. This is real eye candy. On the left are the technologies that we are talking about. Now, not every business is going to adopt all of these technologies. In fact, most won't. You may only dip your toe into the waters of 1, 2, maybe 3 of these things at best. The use cases for each of these technologies is off on your right, whether you're talking about business efficiency or data-centric business models or connected things. This is the world that's out there. These are the things you need to fundamentally understand. Now, again, not all of this. You know your businesses. You know where you're going. You know what you want to get. Hopefully you know what you want to get out of this. You have a vision for where you want to be. Which of these things is going to help you get there? And that's where you need to start focusing. Because when you start getting into all of this technology, this is what you end up with. Now, this is not only out of focus, but this really is eye candy. But this is the point. Every one of the people on this, all of these logos here, are going to come knocking at your doors trying to sell you something. All with great intention. And you should listen to them. I'm not telling you not to, but you shouldn't listen to them first. They're there to sell their product. And their product at the end of the day may not be exactly what you need, but because you don't know exactly what you need coming into this call. You have an idea, you know there's competition out there, you know you got to make this move. Avoid this at first. You build skills first. Top it off with product knowledge. Skills training is critically important here because it prepares you with the knowledge that you need, the working knowledge that you need in order to make the more complex decisions that you're going to have to make on the product side. Which products am I going to use? How am I going to use them? You don't know that until you know what you want and what you need. And the best way to do that is to do that through learning. And there's two types of learning. There is knowledge-based learning, which is just pretty much the terminology, concepts, business applications. And if you get no further than that level, if you are a decision maker, or if you are just someone who is fascinated in knowing and being part of a team, I think knowledge is power. Everyone in an organization should be at the knowledge level. Everyone in an organization should be at the knowledge level when it comes to artificial intelligence, machine learning, and a couple of other things, which I'll talk about in a second. When you get to the skills side, the knowledge and the skill side, those are the doers, right? So people who are actually going to be implementing this, who are going to be not just driving the strategies, but performing the strategies, making them come to life. They need the skills. That is the next level, where you get into the design and the development and all of the functions of actually practically doing and deploying emerging tech in your businesses. And those skills should be validated, especially now. Validating skills and knowledge is, I think is 89%, 88%, actually, if you do the math there. Support post-training assessments. Post-training assessments, well, in the Certain Nexus world, we believe very strongly in this. And we believe very strongly in building certifications and exams using the highest possible standards that really validate, that you fundamentally understand the material that you've been studying. And it gives you the confidence as an employer. It'll give you the confidence your employees are validating that they understand and can prove that they understand these critical concepts, but also from a decision maker level, understanding that you have that knowledge, that you know enough now to be confident in the decisions that you make. These validations, these certifications visually emphasize that, but also bring great confidence to the people who've taken and passed these examinations. These are not easy exams. And they shouldn't be easy exams, because this is complex stuff. And you really do need to know. Even when I say foundational, you need to know. Knowledge, again, is power. We have become a training for life, training for impact society. There's no question about it. And AI is actually accelerating that at a remarkable rate. I mean, how many times are you sitting around and something comes up and you just have a quick question about it? What do? You search it. Or you can use now on your phone, as I have on my phone. I now have Microsoft Copilot is embedded into my phone, form of ChatGPT. So I can be training all the time. Anytime I have a question, I can look something up. But that alone is not good enough, right? You need that combination of formal education, continuing education, on-the-job training, and professional development. And that is where we come in. And as I get to this and show you our portfolio here of AI courses, again, I want to stress to you that I work for Certain Nexus, and I guess I'm promoting this, but what I am really promoting here is get out there and get educated. Truly get out there and get educated. Don't get educated on YouTube. Don't get educated on some everybody. There's a lot of people out there with opinions about AI. There's a lot of people out there that have put training out there around AI. Go to a trusted source. Get the most impartial, unbiased opinions about this technology, because as I said, nothing is more important to understand. Fundamentally to understand. For the growth and success of your business, and I also just think for us as individually, so that we can leverage this to the best of our capabilities. So at Certain Nexus, we have we built certifications, and there are courses for all of these things. We divide our world into 3 levels of turning fear and uncertainty into hope and opportunity: think, build, and secure. What I'm talking to you about mostly primarily here today is the think level. These are half-day, 1-day events with micro-credentials at the end of them to validate the skills. And trust me, these tests are not easy. If nothing else, start over on AI Biz and Gen AI Biz in the artificial intelligence space. I recommend everybody take data ethics. That is a growing field and a big concern about how we ethically use our data is critically important. And how we ethically use that data in training our AI models, equally as important. For those of you interested in data science, the fundamental course on DSBiz is exceptional. For those looking at Internet of Things, there's the IoT course. And then on the next level with the doer line, whether you're in security and you're going to take either cybersecurity coder or a cybersec first responder course, or any of the AI courses that you see across that bottom, these are full high state, what we refer to as high stakes certifications. These certifications have been approved by a lot of government organizations around the world, including the United States Department of Defense. We take great care in building these certifications because what we want to do is provide you with knowledge, the knowledge that you need to make the decisions that are unique to you for how you're going to incorporate emerging technology in general, AI specifically, into everything that you do. Our courses, as you can see, also touch anybody, no matter what role they are in. So this handy little map here, whether you are just a business professional, that's everybody in your organization. All of those things that you see there are eligible for anyone in your organization. And I strongly recommend that everyone in your organization, at the very least, take the AI Biz and Gen AI Biz courses. All the way through to people who are specifically focusing on data science, and your engineers and your programmers. We have you covered here with our suite of courses to give you and provide you with the knowledge that you need to do what you need to do best. A recommended pathway, for example, for training for you would be starting off with the foundational concepts and then moving into something like programming fundamentals, Python being probably the main programming language used at the moment. So understanding Python at a fundamental level actually will be very, very helpful. We have a whole bunch of skill sets courses, which getting the most out of AI using, in this case, PowerPoint, Word, and Excel. Prompt engineering, which is that ability to write those algorithms, to train those algorithms to produce the kind of results you want, is a process known as prompt engineering, which is going to be a much growing field over the next several years and something worth starting to explore. And then you start getting into the higher stuff, the data science and the vendor neutral certifications. And then ultimately at the end of this path, that's when you start listening to AWS, to Microsoft, to Google, to anyone else who wants to come knocking and try to sell you the tool and the product for you to use in your AI or machine learning implementation. And finally, for those of you who are attending today's webinar, I've been told that you get a special 10% off the price of either of these two top Cert Nexus courses if you, I believe, apply by the end of the month. I hope I did that right. Look, I hope this has been informative, and I hope that this has been opening here. The purpose of this session is not to teach you about AI. It is to teach you about the need to learn about AI in a thoughtful way. Do not be distracted by the noise. Do not be distracted by the rumor and the innuendo. Do not be distracted by the fear and uncertainty. There is a lot of hope and opportunity in artificial intelligence. There is a tremendous amount of potential growth for your businesses. But these are hard decisions to make. They need to be made smartly and correctly, and again, uniquely for you. So please take the time to understand that AI is a new thing that's taken a long time to get here. It is a tool like any other tool. And if we leverage it properly, we will get great success from it. So thank you for listening to this. I see a lot of things in the chat, but I don't see them, so I'm going to stop sharing right now. Maybe I can look at the chat. Do you think a supercharged AI model? Well, there's some okay, so nice high-end questions here. I will read this one. Has to do with, based on my experience so far, do I think that supercharged AI model based on quantum computing is coming soon? Yes, but its applicability and its applicability on a general basis, on our daily basis, and even for most businesses, is probably a long time coming. Right now, a lot of the models that are out there that are being worked on and experimented on in AI are really far more high volume models that they're looking to do far more complex things at a level that really doesn't touch most of us on a daily basis whatsoever. I'm asked here 2 questions. What are the skills that marketers need to develop to effectively leverage AI in their roles? ChatGPT would be the first one, right? Leveraging and understanding generative AI, easy for me to say. Leveraging generative AI is critically important. I also think beginning to understand how to build your own GPT, which is something I didn't touch on here. So that's a kettle of worms I really frankly didn't want to open up in the presentation. But there is building your own GPT, your own model, is probably the wave of the future, certainly for large businesses. And I think eventually it will become rather ubiquitous for small businesses as well. So marketers need to understand generative AI and all that it's capable of doing, because it can change the game for marketers. There's no question about it. See, what else do I have here? And then the question is how marketers can effectively integrate AI into their existing workflows and strategies. And again, as you learn about generative AI and how to use it, whether you're using a tool, whether you're building your own, that is how you integrate it into your existing workflows and strategies. For example, if you have a regular newsletter that goes out every month, ChatGPT can write that newsletter for you, provided that the prompts that you give it are accurate, so that your job is more of an editing job and less of one of having to create something out of whole cloth. In that regard, it frees marketers up. The creativity aspect of this is also really interesting in the marketing world as well, with the image creation that you can do as well. I think that's it for all that I see. Again, I thank you all for your time, and I hope this was at least inspirational enough to get you out there to seriously look at getting proper training. You may think you know what you know. There's more to know. And again, before you make those critical decisions about your businesses, please be armed with as much information as you possibly can. I thank you so much for your time on this. I'm turning it back over. Thank you.